Hey guys, Janity here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this Pierrot from the game The Freak Circus. Every time I post a gesture, I get so many people in my comments commenting these dudes, and I really like the design of Pierrot, so I decided to make him first. So these are all the supplies you'll need for this tutorial, and then these are all the terms I'll be using. They're all in US terminology. So if you're ready, let's jump right in. So starting off with the legs, we're going to take our black yarn and make a magic circle. The way I make a magic circle is by taking my yarn and I'm going to pinch it between my thumb and index finger, and I'm going to wrap it from left to right, loop it around, and then right to left to make this X shape. And then I'm going to take my hook and go onto the top part of the X furthest away from you, go underneath the first one, over the second, pull it through, twist up, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch, and then that is our magic circle. So for round one, we're going to make 5 single crochets inside this magic circle. To make a single crochet in a magic circle, you're going to put your hook into the circle, grab your yarn and pull it through, grab your yarn again, and then pull it through both loops on your hook. That's 1 single crochet. Show you again. Into the circle, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn again, and pull it through both loops on your hook. So we're going to do a total of 5 of those. So we have 2 already. You got 3, 4, and 5. And once we're done with round 1, we're going to take our tail and then pull our magic circle close. I'm also going to take and cut this excess yarn off so it doesn't get in the way later. So now moving on to round 2, we're going to do an increase in every single stitch, so a total of 5 increases. So do increase, we're going to go into the stitch, pull our yarn through, and then grab it again, pull it through those first 2. So that's 1 single crochet. But then we're going to go back in the same stitch we made that single crochet in, grab our yarn and pull it through again, and then grab it and pull it for those first 2. So it's just 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. I'm going to take my stitch marker and mark the first stitch I made. So we're going to do that again where we go into the stitch, pull our yarn through, take our yarn and pull over the 2 loops, then go into that same stitch, pull our yarn through, and then pull it over those 2 loops. So that's our second increase, and then we do 1, 2 for our third increase, 1, 2 for our fourth increase, and then finally 1, 2 for our fifth increase. Moving on to round 3, we're going to work into the back loops only. So the back loops only, in a stitch there is a top stitch that is further away from you and one that is closer. So the one that's closer is the front loop, and the one that is further is the back loop. So we're going through this back loop for every single stitch. So go to the back loop, pull your yarn through, pull the 2 loops like you would a normal single crochet, and then just stitch mark it. And then we're doing it for the rest of the round for 10 in total. So only go through the back loop and make single crochet. So that's our second one, third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So for the next 4 rows, you're just going to do 10 single crochets in black, so for a total of 40 single crochets. So pause the video and do the 4 rows of 10 single crochets in black and come back after you're done with that. Okay, after completing those 4 rows, this is a good reminder to take some stuffing and to slowly stuff the leg as you continue to work on it. So for this next round, it is just 10 single crochets, but at the beginning of the row, we're going to treat it like a continuing round because next row we're going to switch colors. So do a continuing round. What you do before you do your first stitch is you do a slip stitch into your first stitch, really tight, and then chain 1, and then go back into the stitch you slip stitch into, and do a single crochet like normal. So that's our first one of this round. And then we'll continue like we have been doing 10 single crochets. So for our 10th one, I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to insert my hook, pull the yarn through, but I'm not going to pull it through these 2 loops yet. Now we're going to change our color into our dark red yarn. And to do that, we're going to grab our red yarn, pull that over a hook instead, and pull it through those 2 loops. And that is how I color change. And then for our next round, we're just going to single crochet 10, but in red. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're at the very beginning of our row. We're going to slip stitch. I'm just going to pull the tail and make sure it's tight. Then chain 1, also tight. And then go back into that stitch and then do a single crochet. That's our first one. And then we're continue the round in red, doing 10 single crochets. And on our 10th one, we're doing the same thing again, of just pulling the yarn through and then switching back to our black yarn. So for the rest of the legs, we'll be done with our red yarn. So we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut off the yarn. And then take the tail from when we first color changed to red and the one we just cut off. And then double knot these to secure the yarn. So now we're back into our black yarn. And we're going to continue the same as we did for 7 more rows. So this is a total of 70 single crochets. So pause the video and come back after you've done 7 more rows of just single crocheting 10 in black for a total of 70 single crochets. So after you're done with those 7 rows, for the first leg, I'm just going to fasten off by doing a slip stitch and then cutting my yarn. Also, this is a friendly stuffy reminder to stuff your leg if you haven't done so already. And then go back and rewatch the parts because we're going to have to make a second leg. Pause the video and then come back and we'll continue on to the body. Okay, after completing the second leg, we're ready to move on to the body. So to start the body, we're going to insert our hook into our first leg. And we're going to do a single crochet. And then we're going to continue to do 10 single crochets in the first leg and then 10 single crochets in the second leg for a total of 20. So we're going to have 1 in the first leg. So we're going to continue on to the first leg and go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to switch over back to our second leg. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so that should be both of our legs attached for a total of 20 single crochets. And so now we're going to continue in continuous rounds. So at the start of each round, we're going to do a slip stitch, chain 1, and then go back into the chain that you slip stitch to do your first single crochet. And for our next round, I'm just going to do single crochets into each stitch for a total of 20 single crochets. And after you're done with those 20 single crochets, we're going to do another continuous round, slip stitch, chain 1, and go back into that same loop for our first single crochet. And then for this round, we're going to repeat doing 4 single crochets, decreasing, and another 4 single crochets. So that's our third single crochet. 4, and then we're going to decrease, and then do another 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you can do that again. We do 4 single crochets, a decrease, and another 4 single crochets. And then on our last stitch, I'm going to color change to our red color. So I'm just going to grab my red yarn and pull it through to start the next round. And then for our next round, where we're doing continuous stitches, I'm going to slip stitch and chain 1, And then we go back in that same stitch and do our first single crochet. And then we're going to do 8 single crochets in red. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the 8th one, we go back to our black yarn and color change to black, and then just do 2 single crochets in black. So that's our first one. And then our second one, we're going to switch back to our red yarn, and then finish the round with 8 more single crochets in red. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then you can repeat this round one more time from 8 red to black, and then 8 more red. And then for our next round, we're going to do slip stitch, chain 1, and then we're going to do 3 single crochets. So that's our first one, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do a decrease, and then do 3 single more. So 1, 2, and 3. And then our third, we're going to switch back to our black yarn, and then do 2 single crochets. That's 1. And then our second one, we're going to switch back to our red yarn, and then repeat what we did the other side, doing 3 single crochets. That's 2 and 3, and doing a decrease, and then 3 single more crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then for our last round, remember to slip stitch and chain 1, and then we're just to do 7 single crochets in red. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and that's our 7th one. We're going to change to black, and then do 2 in black. 1, 2. Switch back to red, and then finish off with 7 single crochets in red. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on our 7th one, I'm going to grab my white yarn and color change to white. Then I'll be done with my black and red. I'm going to cut these off, and then I'm going to tie the red and the white together just to make sure the tail from the white doesn't get loose. Okay, after you stuff the body, we're ready to move on to the head. So for the head, we're going to do 8 decreases. That's our first decrease. And then for our next round, we're going to go through our front loops only, and we're going to increase in every single stitch. After you're done with those 8 increases, we're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase for a total of 8 times. After doing your single crochet and increase, you should have a total of 24 single crochets. So for the next 6 rounds, you're just going to do single crochet into each stitch, 24 all around. So pause and come back after you're done with those 6 rows. So after the 6 rounds, it looks something like this, and I started to stuff already. But then for our next round, we're just going to do 1 single crochet and decrease each time for a total of 8 times. And then for our final round, we're just going to do decreases all the way around for a total of 8 decreases. And then after you're done with those 8 decreases, I'm just going to pull my tail and cut it. And then just close the circle and you'll be done with the head. Okay, after you're done with the head and clothes, you don't do it neat because it'll cover up with the hats and hair. It should look something like this. And then after that, we're going to start working on our belt pieces. So for our first one, I'm going to grab my red yarn. I'm going to start off with a slip stitch. And then we're going to do a series of 2 different triangles. So the first triangle, I'm going to call it the A triangle. We're going to chain 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then starting from our second loop from the hook, we go in and do a slip stitch. And then the next stitch, I'm going to do 1 single crochet. And then for the next one, I'm going to do a half double crochet. So loop it over, insert, pull it through all 3. And then for the last 3, we're going to do 3 half double crochets. So loop over, insert, pull your yarn through, pull it for the first 2, pull it to the last 2. So that's our first half double crochet. So there's the second one. And our third one. And then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do our second type of triangle, our B triangle. We're going to chain 7 again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we'll go back and slip stitch into this one. Do 1 single crochet. And then for the next 4 stitches, we're going to do 4 half double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's how you do the 2 different types of triangles. So following the sequence down here, you repeat these steps. So you do chain 1, do another B triangle, chain 2, another B triangle, chain 1, B, chain 1, A, and then just pause the video and come back after you're done with this sequence. So after you're done with this sequence, you should have something that looks like this. And then I just slip stitch at the end to fasten off my round. And then for the other belt piece, we're going to need our yellow yarn. And we're going to start off the same by doing a slip stitch. And then for the belt, we're going to chain 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. And then in each stitch, we're just going to do a single crochet. So a total of 24 single crochets all the way down. So after you're done with those single crochets, it should look something like this. And then I slip stitch. I'm just going to double knot these 2 together. And then I'm going to go through the back side, the side I'm not going to want to show. I'm just going to pull these tails and weave them in. I'm going to cut off any excess. And now we're ready to attach these parts to the body. So this is the front of the body, this is the back. So I'm going to start off with the triangles, and I'm going to take my hot glue. I'm just going to add a dot right in the center. And I'm going to add my first triangle onto the hot glue. And I'm also going to cut off the extra tail. And then I'm going to slowly start adding hot glue and gluing the red piece all the way around where the waist is. So after attaching all the triangle pieces, it looks something like this. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, where I'm just going to use hot glue and slowly hot glue the yellow piece all the way around the body. So after you're done, it should look something like this. And then now we're going to move on to the collar pieces. So both of the collar pieces are made in black yarn. And so the first one we're going to do triangles. So starting off with a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then from the second loop from the hook, we're going to do slip stitch in our first one, Then we're going to do a single crochet. And then for the next 5, we're going to do 5 half double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally 5. I'm going to slip stitch, cut my yarn off. I'm also going to cut these quite short so they don't give away when we glue them on later. And then for these triangles, we're going to make 4 of these for the front piece, and then we'll move on to the ruffles of the collar. So for the ruffles, we're going to start with our black yarn again, and then we're going to slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 18. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then in each stitch, we're going to do 4 single crochets. So 1 single crochet, go back in the same stitch, 2, same stitch, 3, same stitch again, and 4. And you're going to repeat that until the end of the row. So pause the video and come back when you're done with the ruffles. So after you're done with the ruffle collar, it will look a little crazy like this. You just have to unravel it as we go. But now we're ready to attach the parts. So I have my 4 little triangles. So 2 are going to go in the front, 2 are going to go in the back. So I'm going to grab my little guy. I'm going to grab my hot glue. I'm just going to simply, I'm going to do a little below the neck just so the collar can fit. I'm just do a little line. Grab one of my triangles and just plop it on right there. And then repeat that for the other 4 triangles. I'm going to do 1 here, and then repeat the steps in the back and do 2 in the back here. And after you're done, it should look something like this. And then we're going to take our ruffles, and I'm going to slowly unravel it as I go. I'm going to start from the back here. So with the ruffle, and then so I'm going to start with the neck, and then I'm going to unravel kind of as I go through. And then once I get it all the way around the neck, I'm going to take my hook, take a smaller hook, and I'm going to find the end of the piece opposite of the tails. I'm going to take a tail and pull it through. And then with my other tail, I'm going to tie a tight double knot. I'm going to cut off my excess, and then take my needle, insert it in, grab my 2 tails, and hide them inside of the head. And then that is the neck and collar pieces done. And then now we're going to move on to the arms. So for the arms, we're going to start with our black yarn, and I'm going to make a magic circle. And then inside my magic circle, I'm going to do 8 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, and then for the next 5 rounds, we're just going to do single crochet 8 in black. So pause the video and come back after you're done with those 5 rows. So after you're done with those 5 rounds, it looks something like this. This is also a reminder to start stuffing and stuff as you go. But then on our last one, we're going to change to our yellow yarn. So grab your yellow yarn and pull it through. And then we're going to be done with our black yarn, so we can cut this off. And then we take the tails from the 2 yarns and do a double knot. And I use this as stuffing. And then now that we have yellow yarn, for the next 3 rounds, we're just going to do 8 single crochets all the way around, so a total of 24. So pause the video and come back after you're done with those 3 rows. And after you're done with those 3 rounds, we're ready to change into our red yarn. So do the same thing again, to color change. Pulling our yarn through. And then we're going to cut our yellow yarn. And then we're going to tie these 2 tails together. Okay, now that we have our red yarn, we're going to move on to the next round. So for this round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then increase for a total of 4 times. So that's my first one. single crochet, in, crease, that's 2, single crochet, increase 3, and then our last single crochet and increase. And then for the next 3 rounds, we're just going to do single crochet 12 of red all the way around. So pause the video and come back after you're done with those 3 rows. Then after you're done with those 3 rows, it should look something like this. Stuff your arm all the way through because this is going to be our last round. So for our last round, we're just going to do 1 single crochet and decrease. And then we're just going to repeat this for a total of 4 times. So single crochet, decrease is our second one, single crochet, decrease, that's 3, and then our final single crochet and decrease for 4. And we're going to cut a tail. And we're going to close this off a little more neater than the head. And to do such, we're going to go through the front loops only, go from inside out, and you're going to pull it through every single one of those front loops. So it should be a total of 8. So that was our first front loop. 2, go inside out, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you just pull the tail and it should close the circle. And then I'm just going to pull the excess yarn back into the hand. Done with the arm. And you're going to go back and make 2 of these. And after that, we're ready to attach it to the body. So to attach it to the body, I've taken some of my red yarn and put it on a needle. And I'm going to be sewing it right underneath where the collars are in these spots here. So I'm going to start, we go through the back first, and come through one of these sides. And I'm going to take my arm and weave it through my arm. And then we go back into here and then come out through the other side. Pull that arm through and then go through the other arm. And then I'm going to go through the side and I'm going to come out where I first inserted the hook. And then take these 2 tails and pull them really tight. And then do a really tight double knot. And I'm going to hide all the excess back inside of the body. And after that, the arms are attached and they should be able to move. Pretty cool. And then now we're going to do the face. So then for the eyes, this is the diagram we're going to use. I find it easier to start with the eyes because I can easily identify my 2 centermost points and then do my stitches next to that. So I'm going to do my eyes here and using these 2 as my center. So my first one's going to come through here. And then I'm just going to go up 1, over 1, and then down 1, over 2. And make an eye like that. And this is the eyes are 2 apart. I'm going to go 2 and start my eye here. And then we do the same thing on the other side by doing 2 little upside down V's. And I'm going to double knot my extra yarn and hide it inside of the head. And then after you got the eyes done, the little lines are going to be a little easier. I'm just going to go 1 above the top peak of the eye, pull it through, And then I'm going to go 2 below where the top point is. So this the eye, then 1, 2, go through here. And then I'm going to have my hook go out of one on top of the other eye. And then do the same thing, go 2 below, and then we insert my hook back where I started. And then I'm just going to double knot these and hide it inside of the head. So now we're going to make the hat pieces. So 2 of these would be in red and 1 would be in black. So to start off, we're going to start with a magic circle. And then we're going to do 4 single crochets inside of the circle. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for our next round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and increase 2 times. That's my first single crochet, and then I'm going to increase. That's our first one. I'm going to do it again. Do 1 single crochet, and then do increase. I'm also going to flip my work to be the right side out. And then for the next round, we're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 6 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For our next round, we're going to start off with 2 increases. So that's 1 increase. That's our first increase. And then do another increase to do 2. And then do 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for the next round, we're just going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 8 single crochets. So that was our second one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then for our next round, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to increase at the beginning of our round for 2 times. So that's our first increase. And that's our second increase. And then we're going to single crochet 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then for the next round, we're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 10 single crochets. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then again, 2 increases at the beginning of a round. So that's 1 increase. That's 2 increases. And then we're going to single crochet for the rest of the round for a total of 8 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then for the next round, we're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 12 single crochets. And that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And this will be the last row. We'll do 2 increases at the beginning. So that's our first increase. And then that's our second increase. And then we're going to single crochet the rest of the round for a total of 10 single crochets. That's my second one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to do the same again. We're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 14 single crochets. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and finally 14. And also a reminder, I'm going to start stuffing and continue stuffing as I work on the hat. And then now for our next row, we're going to start decreasing. So at the beginning of the round, we're going to do 2 decreases. So it's my first decrease. It's my second decrease. And then I'm going to finish off the round by single crocheting a total of 10. So that's my second one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And the same thing again, we're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 12 single crochets. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then again, we're going to start our round by doing 2 decreases. So our first decrease, so our second decrease, and then finish the round with 8 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The next round, same thing, single crochet all the way around for a total of 10 single crochets. So this one's my third one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I'm going to stuff my hat once again. And then for the second and last round, we're going to do the same thing beginning by doing 2 decreases. So that's our first decrease. That's my second decrease. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then for our very last round, we're going to do decreases all the way around, so a total of 4 decreases. That's my first decrease. It's my second decrease. Third decrease. And my fourth. And I'm just going to slip stitch, and I'm going to be cutting off a long tail for sewing. But if you want hot glue, you don't have to cut such a long tail. Then after making your first one, you're going to make another red one and a black one. Because when we put it on the body, it's going to be like this. So to attach it, I'm going to take one of my red ones in the middle. I'm going to use my needle to help me roughly place, because this one's going to be basically in the center, and it's going to go all the way down the head. And so I'm going to use the tail from this to sew down and then around this part, but you can also just hot glue if you want. And then after you sew that piece on, you're also going to want to sew a red piece to the left of it when looking from the back, and then the black hat on the other side. And don't worry about this front part being too neat, because we'll go back later and add the hair. So pause the video and come back after you're done attaching all 3 hat pieces. And so after you're done attaching all the hats, he's going to look a little bald. But then for the details on the back of his hat, I'm going to be using the yarn in opposite colors. So I'm going to use black on the red and red on the black. And for him, I'm doing it very simply. You can also use felt, which I think will look cool. So on the left one, I do 3 black lines. The middle one is X's. And then the right one is diamonds, so I kind of try to outline diamonds. And I also did take some of my yellow yarn and just did some crosses to represent the stars on his hats. And so pause the video and come back after you're done embroidering those. And also optionally, I like to add little bell charms on the end of my hats as well. And finally, the last things we'll have to make are all the hair pieces. So starting off with the long hair pieces on the side, we make 2 of these. So I'm going to start off with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And starting from our second loop from the hook, I'm going to do a slip stitch, and then I'm going to do a single crochet into the rest of the chains for a total of 8 single crochets. And 8. I'm going to slip stitch, cut my extra yarn off, and then I'm going to double knot these 2 tails together. And again, cut off all the extra yarn. And then for these pieces, the only pieces you'd make 2. So go repeat those steps of chaining 10. And then for the next piece of hair, we're going to start off the same by doing a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then our first loop, we're going to do a slip stitch. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. And then we're going to do 2 half double crochets. So my first half double crochet, my second half double crochet, and then end it off with a single crochet. Then I'm going to slip stitch, then I'm going to double knot these together and cut off all the extra yarn. And then for the other hair piece, we're going to do a slip stitch. This time we're going to chain 8. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then starting from the second loop from the hook, we're going to do a slip stitch. We're going to do 1 single crochet. And then for this one, we're going to do 4 half double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then again, we're going to end the round with 1 single crochet. And the whole shebang, slip stitch, double knot, and cut off extra ends. And then for our last little hair piece, it's going to be a little wisp on the top. Again, we're going to just slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're just going to do a slip stitch, a single crochet, and then another slip stitch. And then again, double knot and cut off all the extra yarn. So now that we have all the pieces, we're ready to attach. So our 2 long pieces, our 2 middle pieces, one slightly longer than the other, and then our little wisp. So we're going to start off with our long pieces. And I'm going to take some hot glue and dab it slightly off center on one of the sides and place my first long piece of hair. And then I'm just going to go across the sides and hot glue the hair down. Not all the way, but most of it. And then you're going to repeat this on the other side, but leave a little gap in between. And then after you're done gluing the long pieces, I'm going to take my slightly longer piece and attach it to the left side, still leaving like a little gap in the middle. I'm going to attach that right there to the center. And this one is going to slightly overlap with the long hair. I'm just going to attach it like so. So that's our first piece. And then for our slightly shorter piece, we're going to do the exact same thing, but on the other side. Again, leaving this slight gap in the middle, because we're going to use this slight gap, add a little bit of hot glue, and then we're going to take our tiny wisp piece and attach it right in the middle to cover up it all. Then after that, your hair is done, and we're just going to do some embroidery pieces. So I've taken some gold yarn. You can also just take yellow, and I'm going to embroider X here, and then I'm going to do 2 X's onto the feet. And then after you're done with those embroidery pieces, you are done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of my Crochet Pierrot, and I hope to make some of these more in the future, especially like Harley Quinn. I love green. But if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!